Last week, there were a lot of layoffs in the video game industry. A lot of game companies, including Sony, were laying off. On top of that, we're seeing Microsoft is now putting their games on the PlayStation console, while Sony is announcing they're missing sales projections of the PS5, leading to a lot of people, especially us YouTubers, saying there is another crash. Now, do I personally think there will be another 1984 style crash? The answer to that is probably no. Do I think we're going to see some major changes and resets coming in the video game industry and the way it does business? Hell yes, and some of this is long overdue. The 2020 pandemic stopped these changes from happening, but now they're back with a vengeance. But I might cover these changes in another video. In this video, I want to discuss the PlayStation 5 and Xbox One and why they're failing. And by that I mean, if things were really going well, do you think the Xbox would be putting their games on the PS5? Would Sony be laying off several hundred jobs while announcing the fact that they're not selling as many as they projected? The PS5 in 4 years has sold around 50 million units, which is far from failing, by the way. However, the PS4, in the same amount of time, sold between 70 to 80 million units. And yes, there was a pandemic. However, that still is it lagging behind the previous generation by a pretty wide margin, I would say. So that is really hurting Sony. And if it sounds like I'm really picking on Sony, it's because I've really moved on to PC gaming, and Xbox is even more redundant than the PlayStation 5. The only reason I ever see buying an Xbox One X is so I can play some of my Xbox 360 games on it. I don't see any value proposition from Microsoft, but I'll go on to that later why I don't think that's as big a problem. Sony's the one that's having issues in the console war with a lot of its problems. I want to discuss that in this video. Alright? Is the console market unhealthy? The answer to that is no. The console market is doing fine. In fact, the one console in the marketplace looks to be closing in on the PlayStation 2 lifetime sale. Despite being on the market for 7 years, it's still selling well and is beloved by its users, and that is the Nintendo Switch. So what do I mean by having only one game console in the market, the Switch? Well, you see, guys, I may sound like I'm 12. I do realize that when people call me a kid. But my first game console was the Atari 7800. I was in 3rd grade when my mom gave me an NES, and she couldn't give me Contra, so I got River City Ransom and the Guardian Legend. The former is an absolute gem that is right next to Contra, and the latter is a definite hidden gem on the NES. Anyways, I'm old. See, for me, a console is a cheap device meant mostly for playing games. It's simple in its use. If I don't digitally download from an easy-to-use store, then I can get it on a cartridge or disc, and I just insert the disc into the console and hit the power button to play, and I'm playing the game. I don't have to worry about installations. I don't have to worry if I physically own the game of the potential of it eating a lot of my system storage. And I don't have to waste a lot of time installing or copying the game from the disc. And if I have to upgrade the storage, it's just a simple matter of buying a bigger media storage and just popping it in. The Switch fits that bill. That's what consoles used to be, and I still think that's the way they should be. Easy to use and to understand, built so if I buy a game I can get to it and play that game easily and immediately, even if it's on a physical disc or a cart. But you can't say that about the PlayStation systems. Games, even if you buy them physically, you must install and load them, and then oftentimes download even bigger patches because all that's on that disc is the alpha version. If you run out of hard drive space, oftentimes because the space they give you is super limited, you must figure out how to expand it. Either deal with the longer load times of a USB hard drive, or replace the internal hard drive. And for the latter, you have to know how to get to the backside of the console. You have to worry about finding a SATA drive that fits. You have to make sure that you put it in properly and get it fastened in. And then you have to know how to flash the PlayStation operating system if you're updating it on the PS4. The PS5 M2 SSD is as complicated or sometimes more complicated than updating it on the PC because only certain sizes and it has to have certain heat sinks in order for it to work. This is all to get the hard drive or solid state ready to use. For that much effort, learn how to use a PC. There are sites like Coursera or even places on YouTube where you can learn to build a good PC. You will know how to build a proper PC in about 5 or 6 hours is all it really takes to learn to build one. And once you learn how to build one, you can set up multiple hard drives. They're easier to actually install than I think the PS4, have more than one digital store, and you won't be charged for daring to play your game online, and you'll probably make the extra money you have to spend on components back with your first real humble bundle. And you can still use your Sony and Microsoft controllers. You'll have to get a USB-C to USB-A cords. Those will probably set you back $5 to $10. And for all those memes about the PC Master Race as a bunch of anal freaks who like to spend thousands of dollars on their rig and flip out over a lost frame rate, they're a minority. And even so, the point being is PC users have the ability to customize their rig. If they see an upgrade that will make their experience more pleasant, they can just go out and buy it, and then slap that component into their rig and fire it up. They don't have to wait several years and spend $500 on a PS5 Pro. And since it's no longer easy or even certain that software will even work proper on consoles, I've had to deal with buggy games on my PS4. It puts Sony in another jam. Let's talk about value proposition of the current day consoles. This goes both for Xbox and PlayStation 5, but I'm really going to hammer the PlayStation because out of the two, they're the ones that really need to make that value proposition the most. This leads me to the problem with the PS5's value proposition. For those who don't know what that is, it's where I state that my product is worth more to you than the money in your pocket. It could be I have a fun game you want to play, or some feature and service you could use that's worth the time and money you spent to get my console. Nintendo's value proposition is that they're only $300 and you can take the games it provides on the go, and it's easy to use. And if you like Mario and Zelda games, you're only going to find them on that console. It gives you, therefore, value purchasing that console. As I've already stated, playing with the PS4 and just looking at the PS5, these are like gift-down PCs that are only for gaming and media, but offer none of the freedom of doing that the PC offers. Well, it's affordable, right? Well, it's $500, still $500 after 4 years. Okay, well, it's got some killer apps and exclusives, right? Okay, it's got the new Final Fantasy VII game and Spider-Man 2. The only problem is I see Spider-Man Remastered, Ratchet & Clank, God of War, and the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake on Steam. Meaning, I am willing to bet if I wait just a few more months, maybe a year top, I will be playing these games on Steam. And unlike the PlayStation 5 store, I don't have to worry as much about Steam just shutting down that version of the store in a couple of years, and Valve has not had the problem Sony has when it comes to purchasing things like movies off of their platforms and having it taken away from users. And if you're wondering why I'm poking fun of Sony more than Microsoft, I've said it again, but Microsoft problems are a bit different. They're figuring out how many wins they can milk out of what could be a win-win situation. Yes, the Xbox hardware isn't selling well. Many Microsoft fans use PC, and the only games that sold well on Xbox that have not hit PCs are Rare Replay and Halo 5. However, if everyone and their brother, including Sony, is porting things to the PC, who wins that fight? Microsoft does. Because guess who creates the #1 PC operating system? It's Microsoft. In many ways, the Xbox hardware with PC and console being so hybrid anymore, the Xbox hardware is kind of in the way. It would help if people got into PC and bought Windows 11 and Microsoft can coax you into the Game Pass subscription, and I have a feeling their next upgrade is going to be more of a middle step between the two, but we'll have to see. But anyways, regardless of what happens, I think Microsoft is putting themselves in a place where they'll either suffer minimum losses or even some gains. Sony, on the other hand, can't say that. If people give up on the PlayStation console, they don't have anywhere to go with the software inside the video game space, except again to PC and to Microsoft. So you have a poor value proposition there, Sony. Your machines are a poor man PC that come with the same, if not more, problems than PC. But they don't give me the freedom that I get with PC. I don't have multiple digital stores. I have to pay you for quote-unquote your discounts, which oftentimes aren't as good as Steam. And then there's that price. You're just not cheap. And yes, I do know $500 equals the same price that the PS2 was when you adjust for inflation, but you dropped the price on the PS2 several times after 4 years. Instead, I hear Sony is going to try to do a PlayStation 5 Pro, which I don't think is a good idea. I don't know about you guys, but in my household, the grocery bills doubled in the last couple of years after the pandemic, and that really edges out really expensive game consoles like this. I don't think the PS5 Pro with more power is the way to go. I don't think that's what's harming Sony. If I was Sony, I would leave the price where it is for now, drop the price, keep some of the exclusives off PC, and give people a excuse or reason to buy your console. The only thing you're counting on is FOMO at this point, and for $500, I don't mind missing out on new games at first if I have to wait a couple of months to get them on PC because I can't afford it. So what I'm basically saying, Sony, if you're going to win, you're going to have to deal with getting some exclusives on your console, making sure that your console's cheap enough, making sure that it's easy enough to use. That's where your problems are, and I don't see upgrading the hardware is the way to go. You need to get cheaper games, and you need to drop that price if you want to win this. Anyways, this is Tommy the Game Master. Thank you for watching this video. Please let me know how you feel about this topic down below, and please leave a like and subscribe. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye.
Chance in hell, buddy.
That's all of it.